to the Mission Dorothy podcast with your hostess, Tamekis Williams. Welcome. Thank you so much for visiting Mission Dorothy, the podcast. Today, I wanted to start out a 6-episode series related to the 6 pillars of self-esteem. I tend to start out all of my clients with these 6 pillars because in order to be able to make positive change in your life, you have to be willing to walk in each one of these pillars consistently in order to arrive at the change, but also to make sure that the change is permanent. So over the next 6 episodes, we will discuss one pillar at a time. And today's episode, we will be talking about living consciously. Now, for some, they may not feel like living consciously is a good thing all the time. And the reason why I say that is because honestly, some people may choose to, shall I say, stay blind. And what I mean by that is their insecurities will help them choose to not pay attention to red flags or facts that they really need to pay attention to. So let me read this definition for living consciously, and then you'll understand what I mean. So living consciously is to respect the facts of reality without invasion or denial, to be present to what we are doing while we are doing it, to seek to understand whatever bears on our interest, values, and goals, to be aware both of the world external to self and also the world within. So let's chop this definition up in segments. So first, it says, is to respect the facts of reality without invasion or denial. Now, that's what I mean by sometimes people may choose to sit in their insecurities and avoid the red flags, right? So let's think about this. Let me give you an example. So let's say that you were out with your girlfriends and you met this guy. Very handsome, presents very well initially, right? Body is tight, talk a good game. And over the next couple of weeks, you start to see things that you just did not recognize. Or let me say not recognize, but you're starting to see some red flags. You're starting to see some things about him that either you told yourself you wouldn't deal with again, or you've decided, that he's too fine. So therefore you decide to overlook them, right? So are you really looking at your reality without invasion or denial? If you deny those red flags, then you're not living consciously. To live consciously means to pay attention to the red flags, pay attention to the behaviors that you said you would not deal with again, and simply choose you. Not him because he's fine, because he's cute, because he has a nice car, or he makes a lot of money, not because of that, but you're choosing you and to not go further in this dating because you see traits, behaviors that you've promised yourself that you would not deal with. So let's keep it real with ourselves. by paying attention to the reality of our life, the people that are in it, the choices that we make. So let's look at the next part. It says to be present to what we are doing while we are doing it. Now, you all know that with technology, it is a huge distraction. And it's hard for us to really be present for those we love, for, just opportunities in our lives to really hear what God says that says to us. It's really hard to focus on, the things that you should be focusing on when you're distracted. Now, distraction comes in several forms. We know that, correct? The whole goal is to be mindful and present to what we are doing while we are doing it. So if you're going to do something, do it 100%. Don't, half, what I want to say. Trying not to cuss. But don't half butt it. How about that? Do it right. It's important for us to have our own code of ethics, right? We should have our own ethical standard that we live by. So if you sign up to do something, if you chose a job, if you, just said or promised to someone that you were going to do something, make sure that you do it to your best ability, as well as just make sure you follow through, right? Because we are very quick to point out if somebody else does not do that. So be present to what we are doing while we are doing it. Give it your full attention. Give it your full effort. Right? It's funny because, when I think about this, my friends and family always look twice at me when we go out, right? When we go out, if the waitress or waiter is not doing their job properly, right? Meaning bringing attitude, don't come back and ask if we want to refill, or, doing what it is that you're supposed to do as a waiter or a waitress, right? I will ask for another one, because my thing is, you're not present to what you're doing. It's evident that they don't want to be there, because it shows in their attitude. It shows in their lack of care and service for us. And my thing is, if I'm coming in to be served, then that's what I expect. Period. Like, at the end of the day, I work for my money. I work hard for my coins, correct? I'm sure you do too. And therefore, when I go out and when I purchase something, when I'm out and someone is providing a service, I really do want that service to be provided how it, properly and how it should be. I don't need the attitude. I don't need the lip smacking. Like, I don't need my food just thrown on the plate cold. Like, I need it based off of how it's supposed to be. And if not, then I'm not paying. Like, that's just how I roll, right? So in that, when people are not present, a lot of negative things can happen, right? So if we think about, when you're driving, and if you're texting while driving, and if you're not present with that, then we know you can get in an accident, maybe hurt yourself, hurt someone else, correct? If you're not present in your relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a relationship with your parents or your children, if you're not present, they can tell that, right? Because you won't work to spend time. You're constantly, counseling. You are either, just distracted when you're in their presence. You're forgetting what you talked about prior. Like, it just really shows that you have not been present. So the whole goal of living consciously is really learning how to be mindful and learning how to live in the moment. That's why it says to be present to what we are doing while we are doing it. That way you can hopefully give it your best, your all, and get the desired outcome that you want. So the next part says to seek to understand whatever bears on our interest, values, and goals. And so this part of living consciously means, for us to really pay attention to the barriers in our life, right? So we know that barriers can come from ourselves, our decisions, our actions, but also barriers can come from people that you have, in your life, circumstances and situations as well, right? So always, just paying attention to or being mindful of understanding what is causing these barriers on my interests. Why is it that I can't achieve my goals? Why is it that my values are not in line? Why is it that I really don't know what I'm interested in, right? Is that because the barrier may be that you haven't taken the time out to really sit with yourself, to really explore and to see, what's out there, what piques your interest, what makes you excited, what sets you on fire? Oftentimes we're quick to, have that whole woe is me mentality, but are we really paying attention to what's causing the barrier in this moment, in this situation? Is it me? Right? It's not always easy for us to look in the mirror and be able to point the finger at ourselves. But it's very important for us to take a look in the mirror to see if we are the reason for why we can't accomplish the things in life that we want to accomplish. And that's simply us putting barriers in our way. But we also have to be really careful when it comes to the people that we bring into our life, right? Because they too can bring barriers, right? Bring barriers on your interests, your values, and your goals. And this can be a friend. This can be an associate. This can be someone that you're dating, or this could be someone you've been in a relationship with for a while, and for some reason you just can't let them go. You know that the relationship is unhealthy. You know that it's toxic. You know that this person is blocking you from living the life that you want. You know that they are jealous of your dreams. But for some reason, you have not taken out the time to really assess your life situation and to make change and remove the barriers that are, in the way of your best interests, your values, morals, and your goals, right? So let's move to the next part of the definition. And it says to be aware both of the world external to self and also the world within. Living consciously is definitely a high level of awareness, right? It has cause and it also has effect when it comes to your self-esteem. And so it's important for us to, as I just stated, look in the mirror sometimes at ourselves and really pay attention to how are we doing within, right? So it says the world external, meaning outside of yourself, as well as the world within. So if we were to turn within, then the whole goal is to do a self-assessment to see, how am I doing at this time in my life, in this place, right? Really sitting with yourself and just kind of going over your life and, paying attention to, how are you doing mentally? How are you doing physically, emotionally, spiritually? Really working to do a scan of your well-being, right? So turning within just to kind of check in with yourself to say, hey, girl, how are you doing? How are you doing with this current life change? Moving to another state, or starting a new job, or even, finishing high school, or graduating from college, or, finishing a certification program, like getting married, all these pivotal points or times in your life. It's important for you to really sit and just be aware of how you're doing within as it relates to these external situations and circumstances, right? Most of the time, we are just walking about life. Over these last couple of years, I'm sure you've heard of the term intention, right? Just kind of setting your intention or living intentionally. And this is just on purpose, right? Just living on purpose. And so taking that time out to really sit with yourself and kind of do like a self check-in is really key. Like I tell my clients, those pivotal moments of, if you have a son or daughter and they are, getting ready to go off to college, this is a pivotal time for them to sit and check in with themselves to see, how do they feel about this decision, right? How do they feel about moving away from home? How do they feel about being alone and having to make all of their decisions on their own initially? How do they feel about their self-esteem and having to make new friends? Right? So those are the types of things that you would, think about when you are doing that kind of self-check-in and just looking within, right? If you get a new job, checking in with yourself to say, okay, so how am I doing, right? How am I feeling with this new job? Is it what I thought it was going to be? Am I mentally balanced when it comes to the workload of the job, right? So just really, asking yourself some questions just to kind of assess, are you living in balance? Now, I can go on and on with this topic, just talking about that whole self-check-in, right? And so if you're listening to this podcast, then you have definitely sat with yourself and did a self check-in, and you've realized that you can utilize some resources to help you live authentically. So when it talks about the world external, right? External to self, outside of self. Now, we know that society really works hard at trying to define who we supposed to be, right? You should do this. You should wear that. You should be this size. You should be this height, this skin color. Like society, I mean, come on, when we walk in a store, just think about all of the different makeup brands and shades, and it can be overwhelming at times, right? But what we have to realize is, our job is to not allow society to define our worth. Our worth should be defined by us. Our job is to defy society's definition of who we should be, but also for us to show society who we are, right? By our own definition. So when we check in with ourselves to see how we're doing with this external world, we're looking at, how are we, what is that cause and effect relationship? What is that looking like with me in this world and everything in it? Around this time that I'm making this podcast, this is when we recently had the 2 mass shootings in less than 24 hours, right? And these 2 tragedies has caused a lot of people some serious distress, right? When you connect the shootings to the climate that we're living in, the person that we have in the presidential seat, it can really be emotionally heavy. And so, being aware of how you're, doing when it comes to the world external of yourself is very important, because these types of negative stimuli can really cause some internal distress, right? I think about those who, are servicemen and women, right? You have servicemen and women who have retired from the service, have been, honorably discharged, and, now they're living this civilian life. And when situations like this happen, it can often heighten their sensitivity, especially when it comes to feeling safe. And if they're already suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder or anxiety or depression, or really just anyone, not just, our veterans, but just anyone who is already suffering from, mental health disorders, these types of external situations can definitely cause some serious internal distress and pain. So it's important for us to really work to stay balanced, and we stay balanced by having healthy coping skills. And so when these types of situations happen, we can utilize our coping skills and our support systems to help us make it through these tough times, right? So when you're checking in to see how you're doing with the external world, also take a look at the people that you have in your life, the choices that you're making as it relates to the external world, because, these things can definitely cause, shall I say, some, just once again, more distress, right? Being mindful of who it is that you, allow in your life is really important, because they can definitely come and either cause havoc, or they can be a positive addition to your life. So to be aware both of the world external to self and also the world within is very important when it comes to living consciously. The more you're able to be aware, then the more you will trust your mind, and you will respect your own self-worth, right? So living consciously also represents being able to live in the moment. I'm sure you've heard of the term mindful. I've used it a couple of times in this episode. But living mindfully, right? You have a lot of books out that talks about how to live mindful, how to eat mindfully, how to walk mindfully. And it's all about, just being present in the moment. Not being distracted, but choosing to live present in the moment so that you can absorb everything that comes with that. So now that we have completed dissecting the definition, let's also talk about some steps you can take in order to be able to live more consciously. First, I want you to think about meditation. Meditation is an art that helps you to learn how to focus in the moment. Most people are afraid of meditation for a couple of reasons. A, they feel that they are supposed to quiet their mind. And it's not about you learning how to quiet your mind, it's about you learning how to focus on the meditation, on the guide, the person that is speaking during the meditation. And while you're doing that, it takes your mind off of your thoughts. Now, there are meditations out there that will simply, just focus more on you just being in the present moment, and the thoughts may come, but you don't have to focus on them. So, meditation helps you to live in the moment and focus on what is happening with your body, with your mind, in your atmosphere. So, meditation is definitely a great coping skill that you can use, in order to help you live consciously. But it's also a great way for you to calm anxiety, to, not focus on any kind of negative, distorted thinking. Just a great way to kind of calm your body as well. Just kind of destimulate your body as well. And so there are many apps out there that you can utilize in order to learn how to meditate. Now, I have not received any kind of royalties or any kind of payments to share these apps, but I'm just sharing them because I do feel that they are pretty good apps. Now, one great app for meditation that I tend to share with my clients is an app called Insight Timer. INSIGHT Timer. And this is a great meditation app because you can go in the search bar and you can put in anxiety, you can put in grief and loss, you can put in low self-esteem, and they will show you the meditations related to that topic, along with small talks and courses that you can take as well. Another app is Calm. I'm sure you've probably seen the commercials on television, but that is another good app, as well as Headspace. Okay, so you can check those apps out. And of course, you can always go on YouTube as well. There are several channels that focus on meditation also. Now, I know also spiritually, sometimes people struggle with meditation because they don't want to feel like they are idolizing another god, or, some people are not comfortable with doing meditative chants because they are not sure of what is really being said, or trust that what the guide your person is explaining. Some people may not trust that. And so for myself, I utilize meditations without chants. I do guided meditations where they are speaking in plain English. Not to say that the chants aren't, but I take what I can utilize within my own spiritual realm and my own belief system, and I make it work for me. And so there are several meditations out there that you can just kind of follow the guide, and they will walk you through the steps that you are to complete during the meditation. And so another way to live consciously, excuse me, is to really work at taking time out for yourself, making sure that you are creating balance in your life and not being overly distracted, not placing the negative barriers in your way, and, regularly checking in with yourself. And so, balance comes with, once again, having outlets and positive coping skills, right? And so, for myself, with the work that I do, I sit and I listen to my clients express their emotions about their presenting issues. And for me, sometimes it can get heavy, it can get emotional. My heartstrings are being pulled. And so the way that I really work to live consciously is I make sure that I have balance in my life. And so sometimes I will, go home and watch some stand-up comedy. I may just listen to some, calm instrumental music. I will, maybe burn some incense or candles. I spend time with family and friends, just kind of go to the movies, do things that, are positive distractions and bring me joy. And so I have that balance, as well as I also have wonderful friends and family that I can talk with, if I need to just de-stress, right? And so lastly, I want to give you guys some homework, okay? And so remember, you are here to do the work. So, of course, there will be some homework involved. So this homework comes from Nathaniel Branden's book, and it's called A Woman's Self-Esteem. And in the Living Consciously chapter, he gives you a couple of sentence stems. And so sentence stems are powerful techniques for stimulating self-awareness, self-development, and self-healing. And the whole goal of these is for you to start reflecting on your life and giving your life some intentional time, right? So your homework is, I want you to write 6 to 10 endings each morning or in the evening when you're tucked in bed and, kind of chilling and watching TV. I want you to put the television on pause, right? Because this is a living conscious moment. And for the next week or two, I want you to take the following sentence stems and I want you to create 6 to 10 responses to each stem. Okay? So, for example, sentence stem number 1, and I want you to write this down. If I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my daily activities, and then your responsibility will be to finish that sentence. So it will look something like this. If I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my daily activities, I would be able to recognize the barriers that I put on myself and my goals. You got it? So the stem is, if I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my daily activities. And then my response to that stem was, I would be able to recognize the barriers that I put on myself and my goals. You got it? Good. So I'm going to read these 6 stems. I'm sorry. I'm going to read these 6 stems and I want you to write them down. Also, I will work to put these in the episode description as well. Okay? So, stem number 1. If I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my daily activities. I'll read it again. If I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my daily activities. Stem number 2. If I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my choices and actions. I'll read number 2 again. If I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my choices and actions. Stem number 3. If I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my important relationships. I'll read that again. If I were to bring 5% more consciousness to my important relationships. Stem number 4. The hard thing about operating consciously is, let me read that again. Stem number 4. The hard thing about operating consciously is. Stem number 5. The rewards for operating consciously might be. Let me read that again. The rewards for operating consciously might be. And your last stem, stem number 6. I am becoming aware. Let me read that one more time. Stem number 6. I am becoming aware. Okay? So, when doing these exercises, I don't want you to stop and think and try to rehearse or censor your response. What I want you to do is just write the first thing that comes to mind. Okay? Don't try to overanalyze this for you perfectionists. Okay? Don't try to overanalyze this for you overanalyzers. Okay? It's just the first thing that comes to mind, write it out. Okay? Don't erase, no. The first thing that come out is what need to be addressed. All right? Do not overthink this exercise. Let it happen naturally. If you're living consciously, then you find that you will end up having more, like I said earlier, being able to trust your mind and be more authentic, right? Now, if you do get stuck, write something. Right? Do not leave it blank. Invent something. Okay? But if you get stuck, don't leave it blank. Maybe go to the next stem, complete that one, and then maybe come back to the one you got stuck on. All right? Now, if you choose to do this exercise daily for the next 2 weeks, you may be astonished at how much you learn and what possibilities open up for you. Okay? So, I thank you so much for hanging in here with me. And I really do hope that you really work at, incorporating living consciously in your day-to-day life. Now, one thing I'm going to ask you is, please have some compassion and empathy for yourself. Do not be harsh with yourself when you uncover or expose some things about yourself that you may not like. It's okay, because I want you to remember that you are creating change, right? You are no longer willing to be someone that other people, other situations and circumstances, or society has created. You are working to get back to your authentic self. And in that, you cannot have an adversarial relationship with yourself, which we will definitely, talk about that in another pillar. Okay? Please know that as you incorporate these pillars, your quality of life can definitely improve, because you will not be settling for things that you once did. All right? So you got your homework. Let's get to work. Let's be intentional. Let's be mindful. So when you complete your homework, I really want you to give it your undivided attention. I want you to be living consciously in the moment. I want you to be mindful. And if you find that you are uncovering a lot about yourself as you complete this exercise, understand that you can write as much as you would like. There is no limit. Get you a journal, and I want you to title that journal Getting Back to Me, Living Authentically. Okay? Actually, I will be coming out with a journal for you guys later. So stay tuned for that, okay? But let's work to not have any distractions. Let's put the cell phones up. Let's make sure the babies are in bed. Let's make sure hubby is good. Let's make sure, that you're in a good mind space. And I really want you to sit down and really focus on the work that you will be doing, because this is your life, right? And let's be intentional about this change, and let's be excited about it. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you, because it's nothing like, seeing people get back to who they really are, or become, reintroduced to themselves, right? To their authentic self. It's nothing like seeing people live authentically. And I know you know some people like that. Okay? So I am going to go ahead and sign out. I hope that you have a blessed rest of your day. And until our next episode, peace and blessings. But I do want to let you know that our next episode, we will be talking about self-acceptance. Yes, you definitely want to tune in to that one. Until next time, be blessed.